I'm Steph Stricklen with GeekWire Studios. We are here at AWS reInvent, and I am so excited to introduce you to our next guest. This is Scott Johnston, the CEO of Docker. How are you today?
I'm well, thanks for the invite. So glad to be here.
I love in your bio that it says CEO and Deckhand, and it fits with the nautical theme of Docker. Tell me about one of the important tenets of Docker.
So we went through a restructuring 3 years ago, and we said, look, if we're gonna get through this as a team, we need to focus on the culture, focus on the people, and that led to what we call our virtues, our 4 virtues. And one of the virtues is humility, that no one is above doing whatever it takes to help the company succeed. And so we're not big on titles, and Deckhand was just my way of saying, like, look, it's all about getting things done for the company, regardless of role, regardless of title.
Now, certainly a lot of companies in the Fortune 100 space already know who you are, but for folks who maybe aren't familiar with Docker, tell me a little bit about the company and what it does.
Absolutely. So Docker is a startup, still private, and the mission of the company is to help developers innovate and build fantastic applications. And if you think of what's happening in the world today, and COVID put a tight lens on this, that everything's becoming digitized. And that's been happening for a while, but COVID put it on accelerant, right? And so now, whether it's personal, you used to go to the gym, now you're doing Peloton. Professional, you used to go into the office and now you're zooming in. Everything is being driven by software. And today we calculate that's about 26 million developers writing that software. Our mission is to serve them, help them be the best they can be in innovating. And that market is going to 45 million this decade because there are more than 750 million applications that need to be written in the next couple of years. And we are the company behind providing those developers with the tools they need to build fantastic applications.
I have to talk about your background because it really does springboard into this notion of being a deckhand. You've been with the company for a number of years in a number of different roles. Talk to me about that progress, the transition of basically splitting up the company and where things sit today.
Sure. I'll try not to go on because it has been a journey. It's been 8 years, more than 8 years. But in brief, I came upon Docker when I was at Puppet back in 2013. And at Puppet, we were similarly focused on this idea of how can you give velocity to organizations? How can you help them move their applications from development into production as quickly as possible? And 3 months after Docker open sourced, this is Docker open sourced March 2013, 3 months later, it started showing up in the Puppet accounts. And I was like, what is this? I was like, oh, this is gonna change things. This is gonna change things. Fast forward 6 months later, came to Docker, we were 20 folks or so, mostly open source engineers, myself, and we had an open source technology that was taking off. People were very excited about it. But from there, we said, okay, let's build a business around this. And it triggered what is today the container revolution that followed, then Kubernetes followed from there. And this whole show here at AWS reInvent is largely driven by the container technology that Docker innovated. It's very kind of special and privileged and humbled by having that opportunity to be there at the start of this revolution. Fast forward, the company made a number of bets, number of plays. I was responsible for many of those. I was head of product at the time. And long story short, in 2019, we didn't feel the company was really tapping into its full potential. We saw so much love in the developer base for the company, but the company was off in a different sector, trying to make it work, trying to scale the business. And so we said, look, let's simplify, focus on developers, and restart. And so that's what we did in 2019. We ended up, unfortunately, letting a lot of our employees go. We sold off what we call the enterprise business. We sold off the enterprise customers, and we skinnied the company down to about 60 employees and laser-like focus, so we could laser-like focus on developers, and restarted from there. So 3 years later, there's a lot of headwinds that we had to fight through. We had COVID, work from home, restructurings 9 times out of 10 do not succeed. But here we are, thanks to a fantastic team, thanks to some decisions that broke our way, and thanks to some luck.
For all of the heartache and struggles that the restructuring brought initially, you are now one of the shining beacons in the industry because you are actively hiring now. You have come on the backside of that. Tell me a little bit about who you're trying to recruit to your company.
Short answer, everyone.
You heard it here first.
That's right. So we're very privileged that we didn't plan it, but we're actually profitable this year, and so we're actually able to put money in the bank. Thank you, and continue to grow. And we see so much demand to help developers simplify their work in building these cloud native applications that are deployed to the cloud, that we're hiring designers and product managers and engineers, as well as on the go-to-market side. We have a very focused go-to-market that is, we call developer-led, bottoms-up product-led, where developers pull our product into the organization, very much like shadow IT. And so that requires a particular go-to-market executive in our customer success, our sales, and our marketing organization. So we are hiring across the board, and we're very fortunate we can do that.
What is it that makes you so popular with developers?
So there's left brain, right brain, right?
I love this. Good. That's great. Okay.
Yeah, left brain, right brain. So
I'm in it.
The analytical side is we help them get their apps to production faster. And you put a stat to it. It's like development teams that use Docker ship 13 times faster than those that don't. So 13 times, not 13%, right? But like they're having an impact on their business faster using Docker. The other side, the more emotion, is that the Docker tooling simplifies their life so much that one analyst has called it developer dopamine. Like when they type Docker run Mongo or Docker run Nginx, they know how much complexity is saved through that. And it's a dopamine hit, and they really enjoy using the product. So it's a combination of, yes, there's some analytical real value to the business in using Docker to ship faster, and there's just a joy in using the product. And our NPS scores, the feedback, I should have brought my phone, but they write us love poems in our surveys. So you have the NPS survey asks for a score of 0 to 10, right? And there's a free text field. And they'll put poems, love sonnets, because they just love using the product. And it's fantastic. We're very blessed and fortunate that the product hits a nerve that most products in this world do not.
That is one of the best answers, I think. I'm so glad that I asked the question. That is a wonderful answer, and I'm so glad that your customers and your developers have just bought in and are willing to share the love back. I want to ask you why it's important for Docker, and we've touched on it, but let's just drill down to some specifics. Why is it important for Docker to be here at AWS reInvent?
Absolutely. Well, state the obvious, right? There's this massive trend in the industry to move applications from data centers from on-prem to the cloud. And we can go through all the attributes of cloud that make that more attractive, and it has to do with the elasticity, with the cost savings, and so on. Turns out Docker is one of the most efficient ways for organizations to get their applications from on-premise to the cloud. In fact, many organizations say, hey, developers, I'll let you go to the cloud, but first you got to Dockerize, you got to containerize your application first. And so in some sense, like Docker and AWS together are right in the middle of this movement of moving those applications from on-premise to cloud.
What advice would you give your younger self, given all that you've seen at Docker over the years?
Patience, humility, take the long view, and it's a small valley. Treat people with respect and care because it's a very, very small industry. And I would also say that trying to plot things too intentionally, too linearly, you can try that, but you never know what's going to come your way. And I guess the positive of that is just be open to those twists and turns, because you never know how they might end up. I mean, Docker had many twists and turns along the way, and many times they were quite fearful, quite anxiety producing, right? And I'll say, I have a faith, and having a faith to kind of go through those is really important. I'd tell my younger self to rely on that, keep relying on that.
I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to speak. As you said, it's never a straight line.
No.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to cover?
I would just say that we are in such a fortunate time, and yes, the world is in a tough place, but to be in technology, you have to be an optimist, because you believe in the power of tech to make things better. I mean, it sounds very Pollyannish, but it is true. And you look at how much good developers are doing with the tools that we're giving them, that AWS is giving them, to create powerful applications that are improving the lives of the impoverished. Docker is used on the recent NASA project to divert asteroids from hitting the Earth. Docker is used to help cancer researchers analyze clinical trial data. And just like developers are our generation's original creators, and they're doing a lot of good. And let's keep our eyes as an industry, let's keep our eyes on that and empower them to do fantastic, innovative work. And that can go a long way towards, I believe, addressing so much of the ills that plague us as a global citizenry.
Scott Johnston, the CEO and Deckhand of Docker, thank you so much for your time. I'm Steph Stricklen. This is GeekWire Studios.